This is TVC News at 10. The top stories this hour.
Senate Committee on Banking screens CBN Governor for reappointment.
Former Federal High Court Judge Peter Ophelia Jumogobi are rearraigned for alleged corruption.
Outside Nigeria, Sudan's military opposition alliance announced 3-year transition period.
And in sports, Nwankwo Kanu Dosu Joseph react to Super Eagles Provisional Nations Cup squad.
Thanks for joining us. With 19 days to the end of his tenure, Governor of the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emiefele was at the Senate today to be screened for a second term.
He was cleared by the Committee on Banking and Insurance, other financial institutions as well, and said the road to Nigeria's economic emancipation would be rough and tough. National Assembly correspondent Joke Adisa reports.
This committee of the Senate is screening the outgoing Central Bank of Nigeria for a likely reappointment to head Nigeria's apex bank. Top on the agenda of the legislators is to get clarifications on what Mr. Emiefele would do differently if given another 5-year term. The CBN chief says Nigeria's situation is complex and the road to its economic liberation is tough and rough. He believes it will take immense hard work, dedication and renewed commitment from the people to make desired inroads.
I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all Nigerians and our friends that a time comes in the history of a country that you have to learn to respect the policies and laws of a country. Also crucial at this gathering is a clarification on the audio tape which went viral, alleging an attempt by the bank management to cover up a 500 billion naira loss. Mr. Emiefele again denied that tapes of a discussion between him and his deputy, along with other officials, had anything to do with plans to change the bank over a failed investment in Dubai. Committee chairman also formally reacted to the online reports on the CBN Governor's alleged attempt to cover up the 500 billion naira loss.
Because once you are a good person, some people will always try to destroy you. On that note, wish you well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just like SSC, expectations take our reports to the consideration.
As he rounded up his submission, Mr. Emiefele advised those he says are determined to abuse government policies to have a rethink. At the end of the screening exercise, which lasted for more than 2 hours, the committee expressed satisfaction with the CBN Governor. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Though the CBN Governor had successful appearance before the Committee on Banking, his tenure approval still requires the nod of the entire upper legislative chamber. Nara Lion talked to economic analysts on what they think of the CBN boss.
Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria appearing before the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and other financial institutions for screening. This is against the backdrop of the letter written to the Senate by the President that Mr. Emiefele be screened for a second term. Questions asked Mr. Emiefele by the committee included his plans for increasing agricultural productivity as well as multiplicity of exchange rates. The committee is now to present its report to the upper chamber for final approval.
Emiefele deserves it. He has worked hard. You see, you can't really tell the story of how the economy exited recession without mentioning the role of the central bank. In terms of exchange rates, we've also seen stability for many months now. And of course, he has also done a lot in growing our external reserves.
He has, under the CBN, demonstrated very strong, dynamic, effective and efficient macroeconomic leadership in the country. And that has boded well for the economy.
Shortly after Mr. Emiefele's nomination, there were allegations of some mismanaged funds at the Apex Bank, for which the bank promptly refuted.
Somebody made allegations, and the central bank, was swift to refute it, to say no, that the audio tape, if you also listen to it, they were just selective things, and they came up to explain that those were things that were wrongly classified by external auditors.
Central Bank has officially also come out to say no. Conversations were held. What you had was a voice and voices of agents of the CBN, but they had little or nothing to do with the issue of any thefts.
Following Mr. Emiefele's appearance at the Senate committee, the upper legislative chamber is now charged with the responsibility of confirming his reappointment. The central bank governor is now being advised on possible policy initiatives if his confirmation becomes a reality.
We need more consolidation of the effort of the bank, particularly making sure also that other players like the fiscal authorities, industrial policy and trade policy, they're all coming in line to deliver our economic recovery and growth plan. And I feel so confident.
Mr. Emiefele was first appointed central bank governor in June 2014. Lara Folayo, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, not everyone is happy with Mr. Emiefele's tenure at the Apex Bank. A group of Buhari diehard loyalists is accusing him of corruption and kicking against his reappointment. The group wants a former deputy governor of the CBN, Sulaiman Barau, for that position.
They go to the president, they convince the president, this one do so in terms of the farming, this one supported small enterprises, this one do farming system, and this one do so. This is true that they convince, but in reality, go back to from 2014 to 2015. You will see what they did in the CBN. I'm telling you, even me, I have some documents that I know with only that documents, if the president will see it, he will not confirm these people, he will bring another person. He will just tell Emiefele, thank you for your 5 years. Go, appoint somebody.
Our correspondent Lara Folayo joins us now for the latest on this. Lara, it appears that the CBN governor impressed the Senate Committee on Banking, but opinions are mixed about his performance. What updates do you have for us?
Well, even though some people may have issues with the central bank governor's renomination for a second term, but for the vast majority of analysts in this part of the country, to them, they think the president's nod for Emiefele to get a second term is a step in the right direction. They talk about his policy initiatives during his first term as helping the economy grow. They talk about it helping to push down inflation, helping to stabilize the naira against the greenback. They say the country enjoyed buoyant foreign reserves when he was governor for a first term, and he deserves a second term, even not for anything. They talk about the country needing policy consistency, that Nigeria has this challenge of people being in office for just one term and somebody else is being used to replace them. And the new man at the helm of affairs usually comes up with new initiatives that, turn around the previous initiatives of his predecessor, and this has not worked for economic good. They say Emiefele has worked and his policy initiatives have worked well for the economy, and he should be allowed to continue what he started. And we saw that play out at the Senate earlier today. Of course, just like a few days after news of his renomination broke, we saw reports of an allegation of about 500 billion naira being mismanaged when he was governor for the first time. But with what these members of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions said today, they said that that particular piece of information, which of course the central bank refuted as soon as it broke, was just to malign his reputation, that he has done well for the economy. They described him as a good man who indeed deserves a second term. And from what I learned at the Senate today, the report of the committee will now be sent before members of the upper chamber for them to give their final approval for a second term in office.
We got that point precisely, Lara. The group who are against his reappointment are accusing him of corruption. Did the CBN governor give any precise clarity as regards what transpired on that particular tape that was leaked online?
As regards allegation of corruption, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in its response to the news when it broke out, said yes, indeed, the voices in that particular audio were that of the governor and some officials of the Central Bank of Nigeria, but that the information being put out as to what their discussion was about was being misconstrued. And from what the Senate committee said today, they said that they do not believe the allegations being put forward by his accusers, and they gave him an approval as to his renomination as the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which means that basically what the Senate committee members are saying is that the corruption allegation against him do not hold water. It's now left for the Senate itself, the entire Senate itself, to determine if he should indeed get a second term or not.
All eyes on the Senate indeed, but what do you expect to see when this is thrown open at the floor of the Senate? Do you see majority of the lawmakers following the position of the Senate committee?
Well, like every other Nigerian out there, my fingers are crossed, and I'm expecting the Senate to take their decision in the best interest of the nation and the Nigerian economy as a whole. Let's wait to see how events pan out.
Thank you for talking to us, Lara Afolayan, about reaction trailing the decision to reappoint the CBN Governor.
Coming up on TVC News at 10.
Edwin Clark faults President Buhari for taking credit for the creation of the Northeast Development Commission.
Still ahead, senior advocate of Nigeria, Godwin Emiefele, cross-examined at the Federal High Court over money laundering charges. Stay with us for details in a moment.
Welcome back. Elder statesman Edwin Clark has criticized President Muhammadu Buhari for taking credit for the creation of Northeast Development Commission.
At a briefing in Abuja, he disclosed that the idea to have the commission was conceived during the 2014 National Conference, and at that time, Northern elders were opposed to its creation. He discards claims that the project is compensation from the president to the region for their massive support during the presidential election.
Mr. President will say, I did that of the massive votes given to me by the people of the Northeast. It's very outrageous, very unpatriotic. If social services, development, infrastructural development is going to be tied to politics, then we're doomed.
Former Justice Rita Ophelia Jumagobia and a co-accused Godwin Emiefele have now been rearraigned at the Federal High Court, Lagos. They both pleaded not guilty and have now been granted 10 million naira bail. Kemifola Adeyemo, what's that?
Justice Rita Ophelia Jumagobia and Mr. Godwin Emiefele had both been standing trial at the Lagos State High Court in Ikeja. But last month, Justice Hakeem Oshodi struck out the charge against them on grounds that the court lacked the jurisdiction to hear the trial against Justice Ophelia Jumagobia, as she was still a judge at the time. But in 2018, the National Judicial Council had recommended her dismissal due to misconduct. The EFCC rearrested Justice Ophelia Jumagobia after Justice Oshodi delivered that ruling, prompting her to be rearraigned at the Federal High Court last month. Her co-accused was absent, and the court had granted EFCC's application, compelling Mr. Emiefele to appear today in court. On Wednesday, the second accused, who was a former EFCC prosecutor, was present, and so both accused were rearraigned. They pleaded not guilty to a fresh 18 counts charge bordering on unlawful enrichment, taking property unlawfully, corruption, forgery, and giving false information. Justice Aikawa adopted the same bail terms and conditions granted to Justice Ophelia Jumagobia in April, and granted Mr. Emiefele the same bail of 10 million naira with one surety in like sum who must have landed property in Lagos. Proceedings continue next week. Kemifola Adeyemo, TVC News, Lagos.
Still in court, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission today continued the cross-examination of senior advocate of Nigeria, Godwin Emiefele, at the Federal High Court in Lagos. Mr. Emiefele is standing trial along with former Minister of National Planning, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, for allegedly laundering for 150 million naira in 2015. And just last week, he admitted delivering 10 million naira to the Commissioner of Police in Kwara State a day before that year's presidential election. Mr. Belgore was the Kwara State coordinator for the Goodluck Jonathan re-election bid. And during further cross-examination, the accused maintained he only instructed his personal assistant to carry out the decision of the PDP in Kwara State in disbursing the said amount for 150 million naira.
Away from the courts now, the federal government has inaugurated a committee to negotiate the adjustment in salaries arising from the new national minimum wage. Secretary to the government of the Federation says this is to ensure that civil servants benefit from the new take-home pay. Helen Osamide Akins has more.
The clamor of the Nigerian Labour Congress for an increment in the minimum wage from 18,000 naira has yielded fruits. Now, the next stage is ensuring the implementation of the new minimum wage signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on the 18th of April 2019. To this end, the federal government has inaugurated this committee to ensure harmonization in the new wage. The committee is mandated to negotiate the consequential adjustment in salaries arising from the new national minimum wage.
The signing of the act would pave way for the constitution of another committee to negotiate the issue of relativity, stroke consequential adjustment arising from the new national minimum wage of 30,000 naira only with the relevant labor unions. The purpose of this gathering is therefore to achieve that objective.
We have witnessed the inauguration of the committee to negotiate consequential adjustments in salaries arising from the new minimum wage so that the benefit will cut across all levels of workers in the public service.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Head of Service are expected to chair the committee.
The committee, which comprises delegates from both government and workers' representatives, is being given 4 weeks to deliver on its mandates. Helen Osamede Akins, TVC News, Abuja.
Now, for safe, timely and accurate air navigation, pilots rely on aeronautical information data. But in Nigeria, the data is presented manually on paper. Members of the Aeronautical Information Management Association of Nigeria are now calling for automation of the processes as they join the rest of the world to celebrate this year's Aeronautical Information Service Day. Lillian Azamark reports.
Traditionally, all aeronautical information such as charts, flight procedures, airport terrain and obstacle data exist on paper. But the world has moved on to digital circulation of information, leaving Nigeria behind. This makes updating and sharing of information time-consuming and a costly process with a high risk of error. To mark this year's World Aeronautical Information Day in Nigeria, Aeronautical Information Management Association of Nigeria wants automation of the system. Benefits include optimizing the process and managing risks.
It will minimize delays because it's just like when you are using papers and when you are working on the system. So the time it takes for an intended user of that information to get a paper from here to the next destination, if it's electronically, just a button, the information will be disseminated to all concerned.
The implementation of QMS for ASM is a leadway to safety and loss of economic benefits. The intent of QMS is to provide a quality management framework for ASM to comply with ISO 9000. Applicable requirements, control of processes, minimize risk, and ultimately satisfy ASM products and services, as well as user needs and expectations.
But Nigerian Airspace Management Agency has pledged to fast-track automation of the aeronautical information services in the country.
We are going towards a direction where navigation is generally going to be satellite-based, and the level of accuracy of information, the integrity of the information, cannot be overemphasized, and that is a key role you have to play. And so we cannot overemphasize the importance of AIS globally, not just in aviation.
Automated information service in Nigeria implies compliance with International Civil Aviation Organization standards, data publishing in seconds, and maximization of data integrity. Others are that it is cost-effective, minimization of risks, delivery of fully auditable data trail, and ensures single point of truth. Lillian Ezemark, TVC News, Lagos.
Lawmakers in Lagos State House of Assembly met minds with professionals in the building sector with a view to finding a lasting solution to building collapse in the state. The Lagos State Building Control and Planning Permit Regulations were the two documents deliberated on. Lagos Assembly correspondent Abimbola Agbebi was there.
This is the first time lawmakers in the Lagos State House of Assembly will be meeting with professionals in Nigeria's building industry, months after the massive street tragedy.
On the 13th of March 2019, there was a collapsed building in Tafaji area of Lagos Island. And so many pupils of primary schools lost their lives. All those stories that touch the heart are preventable if all of us are present, do what is right.
To prevent a recurrence, the need to take another look at the state building control and planning regulations became necessary.
We have invited you here, believing that your wealth of experience and fountain of knowledge in your chosen area will be put at the disposal of the House of Assembly in respect of these regulations.
It was a moment of truth as building experts and members of the executive talked tough about the challenges facing the sector. It was agreed that when structures are not erected in line with approved drawings, disaster is inevitable.
Different professionals come and supervise. And if I'm an architect, I look at this building. This color is supposed to be 10 meters. Is it 10 meters? This height is supposed to be this. That's what supervision means.
The problem we have is that actions are not being merged with words, right? Now there is an interface between theory and practice. Once we are able to gather our hearts together, solutions to building, collapse, the frequency are here.
Regulations are actually encompassing. It directs the civil engineers, it directs the town planners, it directs the developers. Everybody was mentioned. It says that a developer cannot on its own do a construction work without all the necessary permits and approval, without even going through LAPSCA, having his project registered and supervised.
In many cases, we have seen recalcitrant developer who ignore these notices and until they get their structures demolished. That's when they know that the government is serious. So it is for the people out there to stop illegal development and comply with the law.
Memoranda were submitted to the lawmakers by the professionals on how best to regulate building processes in the state.
The kind of construction we saw today, a very robust one. The thinkings that the necessary will be affected and there will be more development, especially positive development in the built environment in Lagos State.
Having highlighted the various challenges facing the built environment in Nigeria and most importantly in Lagos, professionals in the built environment at this event and the lawmakers are confident that the deliberations held here would yield positive results and bring to an end the rising cases of building collapse in the state. Abimbola Agbebi, TVC News, Lagos.
Still ahead on TVC News at 10.
Sudan's military opposition alliance announced 3-year transition period. We'll have details of that story and more after this break. Thanks for staying with us on TVC News at 10. A quick recap of our top stories.
Senate Committee on Banking has screened the CBN Governor for reappointment.
Former court judge Rita Ophelia Jumagobia was rearraigned today for alleged corruption.
Outside Nigeria, Sudan's military and opposition alliance have announced a 3-year transition period.
And former football stars are reacting to Super Eagles' provisional nations cap list.
Now let's go to that story on Sudan, which is of course outside Nigeria, where military leaders have announced an agreement with the opposition alliance for a 3-year transition period to a civilian administration there.
Hours after the death of 5 protesters and a member of the security forces, Lieutenant General Yasser al-Attah vowed that the agreement will be completed fully within 24 hours in a way that meets the people's aspirations.
This deal can be seen as a make-or-mar decision for the Sudan's political system. It remains uncertain if Sudanese would agree with a 3-year transition period to a civilian rule amid months of protests.
It has also been agreed that the transitional period should last 3 years. The first 6 months will be dedicated to signing peace deals for stopping war in our dear country.
This comes weeks after thousands of protesters held a sitting outside the army headquarters in the capital of Sudan, Khartoum, demanding that the army generals who took power on April 11th after toppling Omar al-Bashir step aside. These protests have led to the death of at least 5 protesters and a member of the security forces. However, in the early hours of Wednesday, Lieutenant General Yasser Attah said a final agreement on the sharing of power, including the formation of next ruling body, will be signed within the next 24 hours.
We have also reassured everyone that we are investigating everyone who has tampered with the blood of these great people.
Mardini, speaking to a news conference alongside Attah, said that the TMC had formed a committee to investigate the targeting of protesters.
There are 3 power structures: an executive council which will be shaped in agreement with the military council and the Declaration of Freedom and Change Forces, a Minister Council which is to be voted in through the DFCF, a Legislative Council, 67% of which will be from the DFCF. The other 33% will be appointed after talks with the Executive Council.
Demonstrators have been camped at a sitting outside the Defense Ministry since April the 6th, demanding for a democratic transition.
You're watching TVC News at 10. Up next is business.
Talking business now, the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, increased by 11.37% year-on-year in April 2019. This is 0.12 percentage points higher than 11.25% recorded in the month of March. A month-on-month basis, the headline index increased by 0.94% in April 2019. This is 0.15% rates higher than the rate recorded in March. The composite food index rose by 13.70% in April 2019 compared to 13.45% in March. The rise in the food index was caused by increases in prices of meat, fish, oils and fat, bread, amongst others. Earlier, Head Research, FSDH Ayo Akinwumi, reacted to this development.
We had thought that it would go down a little bit, but it went up marginally. Still within the range that we'll expect. I mean, you can give it just that margin of error. The population, the sample size that FSTH research takes every month is far lower than what they national bureaucratic stakes. They have more capacity in terms of more spending to enable them to expand. So that's what we have at that marginal error.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service has planned to eliminate multiple taxation in the country. This was made known by the Executive Chairman FIRS, Babatunde Fowler, at a tax seminar with the theme Tax Controversy and Dispute Resolution, put together by KPMG in Lagos. Fowler said the service initiated by the ongoing tax reforms to sign a memorandum of understanding with the state internal revenue agencies to streamline tax payments. He says if you have businesses operating in more than one state, instead of having 5 states' internal revenue services and FIRS coming to check your books, you can do it at one stop. FIRS boss states that the reason for low tax collections is over-reliance on income from natural resources over the years. The Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Makanti Baru, has revealed that the corporation recovered $1.6 billion from companies fleecing one of its subsidiaries. Mr. Baru disclosed this in Abuja after meeting with officials of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Professionals of Nigeria. Abida Lawal has the report.
Nigeria has lost billions to fraud, corruption and cyber crimes, and this had at some point left the country with a near-empty treasury. The Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Professionals of Nigeria is an anti-fraud organization. It is saddled with the responsibility of providing skills to professionals from relevant fields on the use of technology to detect, investigate fraud, and also put some measures to prevent future occurrence. It is on a visit to the NNPC to offer its services in bringing an end to graft in its operations. And while the Group Managing Director welcomes such a collaboration, he says under his watch, the corporation had made significant progress in fraud detection, prevention and control. Such success have helped put an end to fleecing of its upstream subsidiary, the Nigerian Petroleum Development Company.
Recently, due to the work, we were able to get the Atlantic companies that were fleecing the NNPC, a subsidiary called NPDC. And we got an award for them to refund $1.6 billion to NPDC through the arbitration process. So this is just one. We've also been able to stem some of the high-profile court cases that we believe had been set up fraudulently to defraud NNPC. And some of these activities are related with fighting corruption.
Was the chairman of anti-corruption committee of this organization, even prior to his assumption as the general manager, as the group managing director of this corporation. That alone is enough reason for us to recognize a man like him.
The Institute recognized NNPC's efforts in managing oil marketers and ensuring adequate supply of products in the country. It believes the management of the NNPC has also maintained a high level of transparency and accountability in the operations of the corporation. Habida Lawal, TVC News, Abuja.
The entry of MTN, the biggest telecoms firm in the country, into the Nigerian stock market is being awaited. The event comes up tomorrow at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Here's a detailed report by Effiong Ekop.
All eyes in the capital market moved in the direction of MTN Nigeria PLC, which is set for the listing of its shares at the stock exchange tomorrow. 20.4 billion units of shares are what MTN will bring to the market tomorrow at the price of 90 naira per share. The company is bringing great value to the stock market as it comes with a financial weight of 1.8 trillion naira as capital base. For its listing, MTN moves straight to the premium board of the stock exchange, which is the highest class for listing companies judged by achievement on corporate governance compliance. It's been a long wait for MTN in the market in the last 3 years. To the floor of the market now, where business closed in red. The banking sector took pressure from many of the sales activities and their prices dropped in the afternoon. The Osher index of the market measuring price movement was down at 0.48%. Effiong Ekop, TVC News at the Stock Exchange.
Now, children from age 15 and below who have exceptional social, physical, or intellectual properties to showcase are in for a good time as the manufacturers of Indomie noodles have begun the collection of entries for this year's edition of their Independence Day Award. Karimat Salami reports.
Since the past 12 years, Dufil Prima Foods, manufacturer of Indomie noodles, have been at the forefront of changing lives of children with its IIDA initiative. Tagged Indomie Independence Day Award, the program is one of Dufil's corporate social responsibility, which aims to reward and celebrate Nigerian children from age 15 and below who have demonstrated bravery to physical, social, and intellectual challenges. Chief Operating Officer of the company, Kiresh Sharma, at a conference announced the opening of entries, promising that this year's winners will benefit much more than the previous years.
He sees a platform where he realizes that people are rewarding bravery and rewarding initiatives that they take. It's the 12th edition, so yes, we are very excited about it. We've been doing it for 12 years. Every year we try to make it better, so yes, the objective is how can we make it better, and there are a couple of things that we're working on as a team to improve this year's edition better.
Group Public Relations and Events Manager of the company, Tokwe Ashiwaju, explains the procedure of entry for eligible contestants.
Go to our website, www.dufil.com. You will see a particular page there, which is the Indomie Heroes Award, Indomie Independence Day Award, which you can have a platform there where you can use in submitting your entries. Or go directly to heroesofnigeria.com website. It also gives you an opportunity to submit these stories there, or write directly to us. You can write and submit to our office directly. That's number 44 Eric Moore Road, Surrey, Lagos.
The award is geared towards the recognition of children who have, against all odds, exhibited extraordinary acts of bravery and determination in the face of danger and societal challenges. The grand finale of this year's edition will be held on 12th of October.
Well, oil prices are looking downwards as dealers and crude suppliers are mindful of the current trade war between America and China. The Brent crude trades for $70 per barrel. The United States wants oil prices within average bands, and it is pushing against Iran and OPEC member nations. But that's business. We're coming up in sports.
He knows the value of the captain and he wants him in.
He's good, he's back. For me, I'm happy he's back.
Sport for the Nations Corp. We have details with me and Akiri when we return. Don't go away.
Welcome to Sports News. Nigerians have expressed mixed reactions to the Super Eagles Nations Cup list released by coach Kenneth Rowe. 25 players were caught up, including captain and long-term absentee Godwin Emiefele. 6 players were placed on standby as the team is expected to commence preparation soon for the continental assignment. Details in this report.
It is no longer news that Super Eagles manager Godwin Emiefele has named a professional list of players for the 2019 African Cup of Nations. There are basically no surprises on the list, as the names on the roster are all familiar. But the inclusion of midfielder and captain John Mikel Obi has generated plenty of buzz. This is not unconnected to Mikel's decision to select games to feature him. In fact, the midfielder last played for the Super Eagles of Nigeria when Nigeria lost to Argentina in the final group game of the 2018 World Cup last June. Mikel has not kicked a ball for Nigeria in almost a year and was not part of the Nations Cup qualifying series. But former national team players say Mikel's inclusion should be welcome because of his experience and technical depth.
Mikel is back in the team. Now he's injury-free. He has played for Middlesbrough and he's done so well before the end of the season. He has the experience. He's been in the Nations Cup and World Cup. I think for me, he will be part of the team just to give the team experience and also to complement for the team too. I think it's massive. He's good, he's back. For me, I'm happy he's back.
The captain is back, and he knows the value of the captain, and he wants him in. So everybody wants to work. Everyone wants to be in the Nations Cup. So it's a very good competition and a healthy one. When you have every position being occupied by two players, it makes sense. As when one is injured, you have the other one.
Ross seems to be keeping faith with the players that qualify the country for the Nations Cup, with goalkeepers Francis Izor, Ikechukwu Ezenwa, and Daniel Apeyi making the cuts. Defenders on the list are Kenneth Omero, Shehu Abdullahi, William Trust Ekong, Leo Balogun, Jamie Collins, Sami Ajayi, and Ola Aino. Midfielders are Mikel Obi, Wilfred Ndidi, Ogene Karo Etebo, and John Hogu. Forwards are Ahmed Musa, Victor Osimhen, Moses Simon, Odion Ihalo, Emery Onyekuru, Alexi Wobi, Samuel Kalu, Paul Onachi, Kelechi Iheanacho, and Samuel Chukwueze. Ikechukwu Ezenwa is the only home-based professional on the list. This is a cause of worry.
I think the list is okay, but Roy needs to do more with our home base. He doesn't believe in home base, and I think it's not the best. If you look at our previous tournament we have played, Keshi started his team with home base, and we also Umba, Ubabuna, all of them, they all contributed to our winning Nations Cup in 2013.
The home base, I think they should be given an opportunity. At least 1 or 2 should be in the national team for us to promote our league as well, which is not good for our league, for not inviting anyone, which is very, very bad. I don't know what the leaders are doing.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will begin their Nations Cup preparation in Asaba Delta State before heading to Egypt to conclude their camp and play the tournament. Nigeria will compete in Group B against Guinea, Mauritius, and Burundi.
5-a-side football tournament has been concluded with a grand final in Lagos. More than 1,000 teams participated in the competition that lasted 11 weeks across centers in Lagos and some southwest states in Nigeria, including Ogun, Osun, and Oyo. The Trophy 5-a-side tourney was an initiative that took football to the grassroots, with each team having 4 outfield players and a goalkeeper. The final was contested between Scope FC of Lagos and Ifayemi FC of Osun State. Scope FC emerged champions after a 2-0 win over their opponents. The winners were rewarded with 3 million naira for their efforts. They will also represent Nigeria as a 5-a-side tourney in Tanzania later this year.
We're going to Tanzania, and we know when we get there, we'll do our best, and we'll make Nigeria proud. We never believed Trophy would do something, but as we started the game, I know they have something for us, and we felt they would do more. And kudos to Trophy, kudos to them. They've done well.
We really appreciate the Trophy for giving us this opportunity. I believe by next year, the next year will be bigger than this.
The 2019 edition of the Shuttle Select Football Clinic got underway in Lagos at the Agege Stadium on Wednesday. Former Super Eagles goalkeeper Dosu Joseph was one of the 3 scouts at the event. Others are UK-based scouts, East Van, and former Nigerian international Ogunlade Akim. The event is organized by Shuffle Sports Select in conjunction with Brookhouse College. The program is aimed at selecting players between the ages of 14 and 18 years to study in the United Kingdom and play football.
The talented players, but I think we need to provide a platform them to be seen in Europe, and that's why I'm glad that Brookhouse College and Sheffield Select put this program together, so at least a few can come and we can showcase them. Obviously they have a big advantage. Most of them very strong, they're physically very good, very fast, and they have seen that their talent. We need to nurture that, and I'm sure some of them going to be a very, very good players.
We've noticed some players about mismanagement of fund, and that's due to the lack of education. And so Sobo Select is a platform giving the students an avenue to play football and study at the same time too as well.
In the NBA, Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson dominated their matchup with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, combining for 12 three-pointers and 62 points in the Golden State Warriors' 116-94 victory over the Portland Trail Blazers in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. We have details in this report.
Lost 4 times. They're 8-4 so far in the playoffs, including 2 losses here at home. Those were to the Rockets in the conference semifinals as we're underway with Mark Jackson.
Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson dominated their matchup with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, combining for 12 three-pointers and 62 points in the Golden State 116-94 victory over the Portland Trail Blazers in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
For that family. Pass inside, goes back out. McKinney bangs in the three-pointer.
Curry finished with a game-high 36 points, and Thompson added 26 for the Warriors, who won a second consecutive game without star forward Kevin Durant, who is out with a bruised right calf. Damian Lillard, in an average game, shot just 4 of 12 three-pointers tries en route to a team-high 19 points, while McCollum added 17 for the Trail Blazers. Game 2 in the best-of-7 series is scheduled for Thursday night, also on the top-seeded Golden State home court.
Ball movement, man movement, unselfish play, gets rid of the rock, rewards a rolling big man, and then high-five the celebration.
Well, indeed, the NBA Finals and the Golden State Warriors looking unstoppable, though it's just Game 1 at the moment. That's the much we've got for you from the exciting world of sport. It's back to the duo of Azizat and Emiefele.
Thank you, BN, for the update in sports. Residents of Jos, the Plateau State capital, are now worried about the increasing cost of tomatoes in the state.
And consumers are worried that the commodity might soon be priced beyond what they can afford. TVC News Plateau correspondent Philip Joshua sent in the report.
Tomatoes are the major dietary source of the antioxidant lycopene, which has been linked to many health benefits, including reduced risks of heart disease and cancer. They are also a great source of vitamin C, potassium, folate and vitamin K. Jos, the Plateau State capital, is known for food production, but most is popular for its fresh tomatoes, usually red, large, nutritious, flawless, very beautiful and affordable. The state is among the few states in Nigeria renowned for producing tomatoes, and traders as well as consumers come from far and near to buy tomatoes due to it being affordable in the state. But that may soon change. The recent increase in the price of tomatoes in Jos is eating deep into pockets of residents.
The increment is too much. It's almost times 6. The last time I bought this one is 500 naira. Now it's almost 3,500 naira. I priced this to 2,000, they say no.
Before, if you have your 200 naira, you can get tomatoes and you do your stew, plenty stew, and you eat your white rice and stew. But now you can't even get tomatoes of 500 naira and then you do your stew. It won't be enough, so it has greatly affected me as a woman.
The price has actually increased, but we still have to buy anyway because of the business. It has to go on. We are being compelled to buy the fresh one and also mix with the tin tomatoes, so we'll be able to meet up our demands. In terms of business, it's actually not too good for us.
We spoke to the leadership of the market on what could have caused the recent increase in the price of tomatoes.
Why is it that the price of tomatoes change is due to the rain?
the nature of tomatoes we are harvesting in Plateau State or most part of Nigeria is UTC, and it's not durable to the rainy season time. That is why when it is raining, the nature of the tomatoes get down and melt. At times it's rotting. That is why the scarcity of tomatoes make the consumers to the price to go higher.
Residents of Jos are hoping that the increase in the price of the commodity will not last too long. For Norm Joshua, TVC News, Jos, Plateau State.
It's pretty much the same situation in Lagos that season.
And you begin to wonder if tomatoes is the new gold.
Well, it happens almost every year. Well, with that, we wrap it up on TVC News at 10. Thank you for watching. You can get more stories on our website, of course. It's tvcnews.tv. Search for us on all social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is at tvcnewsng to serve you the latest stories within Nigeria and the rest of the world. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.